StraighTAllDay.com.
Mental toughness to continue showing up, doing the work, putting yourself out there, even when the success you've expected to achieve has yet to be achieved. And on top of all this, you get a huge dose of personal initiative, which is the go-getter energy that moves any one of us, including yourself, to go and make things happen instead of waiting for things to happen. And then we put all this together into a series of frameworks, approaches, insights, strategies, and techniques, all underneath the umbrella of one unified philosophy that is called Work on Your Game. My name is Baldwin, also known as Dre All Day, and welcome to the show. And today's topic is what a plan is not. Yeah, so we talk about what plans are and maybe even how to make your plans in some episodes of the show. Today I'm going to make sure I'm clear with you all on what a plan is not, because I want to make sure you are not fooling yourself thinking that you have a plan when you have something that is maybe a thing but it's not a plan. And when you have the wrong formula, that can lead to less than ideal results. So before we get into that, let me tell you, I'll send out a daily motivation text message for free every morning to everyone in my text community. This message is guaranteed to keep you focused, sharp, and on point. So if you want to receive this message, all you got to do is send me a text at my number, which is 305-384-6894. And every morning when that daily motivation text goes out, you, who is a member of my texting community, will be receiving that message. Secondly, what do you do with the rest of the day? I mean, a text message is a text message, but we know text messages are relatively short. What do you do with the rest of the day, the other 23 plus hours of the day, when you probably want to stay focused, sharp, and on point, and actually have a reason to be focused, sharp, and on point, and something to be focused, sharp, and on point on or about? Well, that's why you join Work on Your Game University, because at Work on Your Game University, here's what you're going to learn, amongst other things. First of all, you're going to learn how to develop the mindset that you need to take yourself to your highest possible levels and beyond in your life and in your business. Secondly, you're going to have the game plan, which we call the strategy, which is an actual plan, the opposite of what we're going to be talking about here today. A game plan for actually moving yourself forward so you know how to get from point A to point Z. Third, you're going to have a system, which is a process and a mechanism that operates your strategy over and over and over again so you can get consistent results. And fourth, you're going to have accountability for your execution, which means anytime that you are slipping, it's noticed. Anytime you're not doing what you're supposed to do, you're going to be held accountable for that so you can get right back on track to where you need to be. So all this up and down, sometimes I'm on track, sometimes I'm not on track, sometimes I'm consistent, then the next week I'm inconsistent and I start and I stop. All of that stuff you've been dealing with in your life up to this point, you can say goodbye to all of that, because we're going to take care of it inside of Work on Your Game University. So if any of that sounds like what you need, or all of it sounds like what you need, go to workonyourgameuniversity.com right now and take your next steps to working directly with me. Now let's get into our topic, which is what a plan is not. Since we talk about strategy and systems a lot here at Work on Your Game, whether on this show or in other material or inside the university, I want to make sure you are clear on what exactly it means to have a plan and what it does not mean to have a plan. This way, you will not think that you are doing something that you're not doing. And again, so you don't want to be working with inaccurate formulas, and that will help aid you in not spinning your wheels working on something that's not actually working. See, if you're doing something that's not actually working, at least you should know you're doing something that's not working. So I don't want you to think you're doing A when you're actually doing B, or think you're doing B when you're actually doing C. So we're going to get clear on what a plan isn't. And these are certain things the things I'm going to lay out here today are things that sometimes people, I ask them, or if you ask them, or if you ask yourself, hey, what's your plan? They will say, well, I'm going to do this or this or this. I'm going to point out those things that are not actually plans. So these are things that people often say is their plan, but these things are not plans. And that's how I'm going to keep you from operating under false premises and operating with inaccurate formulas that could lead you to think you're doing something when you're not actually doing the thing you think you're doing. You're doing something, but it ain't the thing you think you're doing. So I want to save you from these inaccurate formulas. And these are some of the false beliefs and false ideas that lead people down the wrong paths. And the problem with being led down the wrong path, thinking you're doing one thing when you're doing another, is that unlike in, let's say, a video game, you can't just hit the reset button on your life. Right? So if you waste a year or 5 years or even a week or even an hour doing something that was being done the wrong way, you can never get that time back. So this episode is really about you saving your most valuable resource, which is your time. And I'll also, as usual, I'll get in between the lines of the things I'm saying here to help you understand what you should do instead of these things that many people are doing. without further ado, let's get to it. Point number one. Today's topic, once again, is what a plan is not. Number one, patience is not a plan. Patience is not a plan. Patience is a tool. Patience is a tactic. Patience can be a virtue depending on how, when, and where you are using it. I'm not saying that patience is a bad thing. So everything that I point out here today, these are things that are not plans. They does not necessarily mean that you should never use them. It doesn't mean that they don't have their place and that they don't have value in some way, shape, or form. But they are not plans. Patience can be used in certain times and in certain ways. But being patient and waiting for something to change or for something to happen in and of itself is not a plan. Here on this show, the introduction every day, what do I say? The personal initiative to go make things happen instead of waiting for things to happen. Being patient it communicates that you're waiting for something to occur because you're being patient. You're not able to kind of force the issue. You're kind of waiting for it to take place. We don't want to do that. That's not going to help you get to the outcome that you want to get to. The definition of the word patience is the capacity to accept or tolerate delay, trouble, or suffering without getting angry or upset. Well, we don't want to tolerate or accept delay. All right, we're going to focus on that first word in that definition, which is delay. We don't want to tolerate delay because, again, the intro of this show, what did I tell you? Personal initiative. Initiative means to go first. It means to move. It means, literally, as I describe it, make things happen. So we're not accepting delay. We are not tolerating delay. Anytime something gets delayed, we go and use initiative to get it out of the state of delay and into the state of activation. You get what I'm saying here? So we are not talking about using patience as a plan. Patience is not a plan for success. Being patient and waiting for things to happen is not what we do here at Work on Your Game. Now, you may do that somewhere else with somebody else, but not over here. As we talk about, when we discuss personal initiative, go make things happen. Definition of a plan, ladies and gentlemen, definition is a detailed proposal for achieving something. That's a plan. A detailed proposal for achieving something. Waiting for something is not a detailed proposal, nor is it a formula for achieving or accomplishing anything. Does everybody understand where I'm coming from now? Good. Point number two. Today's topic, once again, is what a plan is not. Number two, consuming free materials such as podcasts or watching YouTube videos is not a plan. Again, it is not to say that listening to a podcast or watching YouTube is a bad idea. After all, Baldwin is on podcasts and I'm on YouTube. So if you're going to consume on those platforms, you should look me up and make sure you are subscribed to whatever I'm publishing, because I'm going to give you some actual substance. I cannot speak for what anybody else is doing. So you should at least consume my stuff on those platforms. So I'm not saying abandon those platforms. I consume stuff on both of those platforms as well, even outside of my own stuff. But doing that alone is not a plan for achievement, because the material in those places are usually not organized nor systemic enough to help you get a specific outcome. They're not set up to take you through step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, all the way to a desired outcome. And again, anybody who is smart enough and good enough at what they do to actually help you get to a specific outcome is probably not going to put the entire process of how to do it on a YouTube or a podcast platform. Why? Because if they did, then they wouldn't have anything left to sell you. All right, the stuff that they actually sell you, that's the stuff that's actually going to help you get to the outcome. So they can give you good stuff, they can give you valuable stuff, and very useful stuff like I do. I give you very useful, valuable, and actionable things here on this show and on YouTube and everywhere else that I publish things. But if you want to get the real deal and you want to get deep and the stuff that's really going to help you get to your outcomes, there's a couple of things you need. First of all, there's higher level material than whatever I put out on the free platforms. I can tell you that I have higher level material than what I put on the free platforms because I am an expert at what I do. Secondly, the personalized attention that you get when you're working directly with the person, you can't get personalized attention through YouTube, because the stuff that I put on YouTube or even the stuff that I put on this feed, on this podcast, are made for a mass of people. So 10,000 people listen to what I said today, all 10,000 can understand this. But if I'm looking specifically at your business and specifically at your situation inside of Work on Your Game University, for example, I can give you specific feedback on exactly what you need, exactly what you need to do, and answer the questions that you have, which are different than the other 9,999 people's questions, needs, situations, and where they're trying to go. Everybody understand what I'm saying? So this is the difference between what you're getting on the, let's say, the free stuff, and when you go inside of somewhere like Work on Your Game University. I'm not just going to say the paid stuff, period, because there's a lot of stuff you can pay for that I mean, not from my world, but from other people's worlds, that is absolute garbage. And again, I'm not saying no names, but in Work on Your Game University, you know you're going to get value. And if you don't believe me, you want to see some proof, go to alldreallday.com. That's alldreallday.com. On that website, you can see a bunch of social proof that we are continually adding to. Like literally, I'm adding new stuff, new social proof there as I grab it, gather it as it comes in, adding it to that site so y'all can see the social proof of what I've done, who I've helped, who I served, and the feedback that they shared. Not what I said, but what they said. But anyway, consuming free material is, again, not a plan for you to achieve a specific outcome. Now, if you have goals, especially if you have big, ambitious goals, you have some specific outcomes that you want to achieve. You're not going to do that just by consuming the free stuff. Again, you can learn some things, and you can get some specific tips even from a podcast or from a YouTube channel. But if that alone was all we needed to plan for our success, then there'd be no need for things like coaching, consulting, masterminds, and other programs that require investments, financial investments. They require things like time and attention and money. Besides, since those platforms are free and readily available, and there are millions of hours of material on each one of those platforms, right? Since we know that to be true, if that was all you needed in order to achieve your success, well, you would already have all the success you wanted and then some already. You would already have all the success because all that stuff has been out forever. YouTube's been out for damn near 20 years. Podcasting has been around for just as long. It's been popular for probably about maybe close to 10 years. And all of you know where to find both of those platforms. So if all you needed to be successful was there, then everybody should already have all the success they want. But since all of us are still striving and still looking and still taking steps to move forward, that is by deductive reasoning, there probably is still some stuff that we're missing, some stuff that we don't have just yet. Does that all make sense? Good. Point number 3. Today's topic, once again, is what a plan is not. Number 3, seeing what a successful person does and copying the stuff that they do that is convenient or easy for you to do is not a plan. Notice exactly the exact wording that I use in that sentence because it's very important. Copying what a successful person does that is convenient or easy for you is not a plan. Even copying every single thing you see a successful person doing is also not a plan, because if you copy everything you see them do, there's still something missing. You know what's missing is the context of what they're doing. You don't understand maybe why they're doing the thing that they do. You may be able to see the tactics of what they're doing, like they did this, they posted this, they ran this ad, they sent this many emails. But if you don't understand the underlying strategy that is driving the actions, that is driving the tactics, then you may copy the tactics but not understand the strategy, so you're not going to get the same result. So just copying what you see another person doing without understanding the why behind it is not a plan, let's put it that way, is a formula for you being even more lost and confused than you were before you started doing it. Back in my basketball days, for example, a lot of basketball players would come to me at some point and tell me how they heard some NBA player who they wanted to emulate was doing a certain drill, or there's a certain thing that they did when they were coming up, when that NBA player was growing up, certain thing that player did, and the player who was reaching out to me would say, well, Dre, I heard that Derrick Rose, when he was growing up, he used to do this drill. Or I heard that Kyrie Irving, when he was coming up in basketball, he was in high school, he used to do this thing and this thing. And the player who was talking to me would take that little piece that they heard about out of context, whether it was true or not, doesn't even matter. Or they would say, I heard Kobe Bryant worked out 6 hours a day. They would take that little piece out of context, and they would say, well, what do you think, Dre? What if I just did that? Do you think I'll be able to do moves like Derrick Rose or dribble like Kyrie Irving, or I could become as good and as dominant and as great as Kobe Bryant? Now, the challenge with this, or the problem with this idea, was that this player who was talking to me thought that if they copied just this little thing that they got out of context, that would be enough to replicate the overall big picture success of this NBA player. Now, some of you who may be good critical thinkers and deductive reasoners may already understand the flaw in this situation, because this is a false idea. You see, if you want to replicate another person's success, whoever the person is, you have to replicate all the pieces that went into their success, not just the pieces that are easy for you or convenient for you, or the pieces that you want to do, or the pieces that you like. Also, you need to understand the underlying strategy that drove the tactics. What are the strategies that led somebody to working out as much as they did, or to doing the drills that they did, or the moves that they made, if indeed those things are even true? Because a lot of these things were just they were just hearsay. The player didn't say they did it. There was no proof that they had done it. It was just some rumor or story that just got passed around by different people, maybe motivational speakers, coaches, etc., trying to motivate their players. So for example, in sports, you will hear a lot of coaches will tell their players, hey, this player who's on TV, some superstar professional athlete, they did this, this, and this. And if they get their players to believe it, this high school coach can get their players to believe that this NBA player did ABC, they can get their high school players to do ABC, even if there is no proof whatsoever that the NBA player ever did A, B, or C. But they can use it as a kind of a motivational tactic to be a foot in the ass of the high school players that they're trying to coach. That works. I mean, I get it. I understand why they're doing it, but players hold on to that stuff, and they tend to come to believe these things even though there's no proof that they're actually true. The challenge with all of this is you can't just copy tactics from another person. Even if you copied every single thing that they did, if you stole their whole formula, or at least you think you did, if you don't understand the underlying strategy beneath it that actually makes it work, or the principles that drove it that makes the strategy happen, then you could copy a whole lot of stuff and still not get the outcome that you want. See, one challenge that comes with all of this, with the emulating someone who's already achieved success from a distance. Now, if you get up close, that's a different story. If you get up close and you can get into that person's program, or you can be coached by them or something like that, they can tell you their strategy. They can lay it out for you. They can help explain it to you so you understand it. You can understand the foundational pieces of it. But if you're copying or emulating someone's success from a distance, the problem with it is that many people who have created success are not always very good at explaining how they created their success. They're not good at articulating it and making you understand where it came from and where it went to. Some people are very good at doing a thing, but they're not very good at explaining a thing. So those necessary pieces for success, that can get us easily confused because we only see the surface level pieces of what this person's done, and then we think we can just copy that and that's going to be all that we need. This leads a lot of people down the wrong road, and you end up more lost than you were when you first started, because you started following, or this person said, hey, I did this, 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 and this, and this, and now you think you need to just copy those things that person said, but you don't get all the other pieces that go with it. Maybe there's some things that they said that you kind of just glossed over, or maybe they didn't go into too deep, or maybe they even skipped a step in talking about what they did, and that step that they skipped might be the exact thing that you need that will make everything else that they said make more sense. But since you didn't get that part, they didn't share it, you don't know that they didn't say it because you don't know what you don't know. You can see how following this might actually put you in a worse space than had you just listened to it and done nothing. You see what I mean? So this is why you don't want to just copy what you see another person doing. Even if that person is highly successful, even if they have the exact success that you want, you can't just copy what you see them doing or you hear them saying, because they may have left something out that you won't even notice that they left out. And again, following them might put you in a worse space. So with all that said, let's recap today's class, which is what a plan is not. Since we talk about systems and strategy a lot inside of Work on Your Game University, I want to make sure everybody understands that there are certain things that people consider to be plans that are not actual plans. Point number one, patience is not a plan. Patience is a tool, it is a tactic, but it is not a plan for achievement. Here we talk about personal initiative, which is making things happen, and patience is more along the lines of waiting for things to happen. That's not what we aim to do here at Work on Your Game. Number two, listening to podcasts, consuming free stuff like YouTube, that is not a plan. It doesn't mean that doing those things is a bad thing, but it's not a plan. A plan is a laid out step, detailed points of I'm going to do this, then this, then this, and this. If you don't have that, then you don't have a plan. Even if you consume a lot of material, often that material is disparate. They're not connected. There's not do this, then this, then this, then this. There's not a point. There's not a structure to it. It's usually whatever that person, the content creator, like the podcaster or YouTuber, someone like myself, whatever I decide to put out that day is what it is. Not that one piece is directly going to connect to the next piece, the next piece, the next piece. Usually those are the things that we sell. Those are not the things that we give away. And most people in the thought leadership space are pretty much working the same way. Point number three, seeing what successful people do and copying the stuff that is convenient for you is not a plan. Even if you copy all the stuff you can find, even the inconvenient stuff, it will still inconvenient stuff. It will still not lead you to having a clear plan for achieving success. Why? Because you probably don't know the underlying strategy and underlying mindset that went into the actions. So even if you copy all the actions, if you don't have the mindset to go with it, then actions are still going to land in a way that don't produce the result that you expect it to be produced. This is why you got to understand the principles, you got to understand the strategies, and then lastly, you can copy the techniques, the tactics, the action steps that individuals take. Many people do this backwards. They copy the techniques and action steps, and they try to figure out if this is a strategy. That's the wrong way of doing it. That's an inaccurate formula that, again, will lead you to being more lost than successful. All said, text me. Tell me the best idea you got from today's masterclass. What are you going to do different based on what you heard? And let me know you want to get the daily motivation text that I send out free of charge every morning. My number is 305-384-6894. And workonyourgameuniversity.com. That is where you go when you are ready, which is right now, to work with me directly on building your mindset, laying out a clear strategy, implementing a system, and being held accountable to execute. All of that happens at workonyourgameuniversity.com. Work on your game. Dre all day.